Hey friends, I've got a great guest for you today. He is the mayor of Hopkins, Minnesota, just outside Minneapolis. Very happy to have Patrick Hanlon joining me for the first time. We had a very important conversation about what's gone on out there, what he's seen as the mayor of this town where ICE has been very active for weeks now. We heard news yesterday that they were, quote, pulling out, but we will believe it when we see it, Patrick says, and there's so much more. Great conversation with Mayor Hanlon. I think you're really going to like it, and I'm going to jump right into it because it's Friday, and I was hanging out with listener, subscriber, friends last night for almost 4 hours last night. We got a little bit carried away. We were having so much fun, and today I am headed back home, and then I am going on vacation with Julia for a week. Very, very excited about that. I think I'm starting my vacation a little early by skipping the news segment, but that's mainly because I got to help mom and dad this morning, and I've got to get ready for 2 more interviews that I will share with you next week, but you can watch them. I'll do them live today with both Dr. Peter Hotez and David K. Johnson are joining me at 12 and 1 East today, or at least that's the schedule. I'll share you the audio, the podcast next week, but if you want to watch them live, subscribe to youtube.com/standupwithpete or watch it on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, where you can follow me all there. But right now, for your listening pleasure and for your inspiration, I've got a really, really cool guy who came to me highly recommended from our friend Adam, who's a longtime listener, who was my guest on the show a couple weeks ago, lives outside Minneapolis, grew up in the south side of Minneapolis himself. So reached out to Patrick, and we had a bit of a conversation, and I said, let's do it. Let's go on the record. I hit record, and this is what I've got for you. Very important. Really like this guy. Smart, inspiring, courageous, and just the kind of leader that we need during this time. I can't do any of these interviews without you. This is an ad-free show, so please go sign up at patreon.com/PeteDominic. Let's do it right now with the mayor of Hopkins, Minnesota, Patrick Hanlon. All right, there he is now, Mayor Patrick Hanlon. We are on together. We've just had a great conversation. We've gotten to know you. You come highly recommended from a longtime listener and mutual friend, Adam, and we're leaving his last name to just you and I, but great guy who was on the show a couple weeks ago. So nice to meet you. Really appreciate you doing this interview with me.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Pete. Thanks for having me on today.
So many important things to talk about from your perspective as mayor. Tell me about Hopkins there in Minnesota, just outside Minneapolis, right?
Yeah, we're just outside of Minneapolis. It's a city of 20,000 people. We have a historic downtown Main Street. My family actually comes from the Boston area, and it reminds me of a small East Coast town. We still have our historic Main Street. It's where people connect. We have a lot of new restaurants coming in. It's kind of a hot place to be. 3 new light rail transit stops coming in. So there's a lot of growth and a lot of bustling activity going on in the city right now.
Sounds like an amazing place. I want to come visit. I got a lot of friends out there now.
Yeah, anytime you come out, let's catch up.
So you guys have been through hell, and you were telling me before when we were talking that it's been like an occupation there. I just got to ask you up front because we just got news this morning about it, so I just want to get your take on it. Tom Homan came out and announced that they were going to pull out their troops or their ICE or whoever in Minneapolis today. He's got the president's approval, apparently. How are you hearing that? How is your community hearing that? Do you believe it? Are you seeing it? How do you know? What do you think?
Yeah, I think everyone kind of has an attitude right now. I mean, we just had, they said 700 troops drew down from the original 3,000. So that brought us down to 2,300. And let me tell you that the last week here in Hopkins has been the busiest since this occupation started. And so I think most people, myself included, people in the community, other mayors that I talk to, we will believe it when we see it. And when I say when we see it, when we're pretty connected, I'm pretty connected with our community members, and they're out there reporting on every single ICE vehicle that comes into our community. And so when we stop seeing ICE showing up in front of our restaurants and bike shops and breaking into apartments, we will believe it.
I want to talk to you about the relationship with the community and the organization and everything that is being done, as I talked with one of those members of the community, our friend Adam. But first, let's get to the nightmare that it's been. I mean, you, the mayor, you hear about almost everything that has happened. Tell us the horrible stories that have happened to the people in your community, many of which are residents, many of which are actually U.S. citizens. List it off however you want to, these horrible situations that so many of your folks have been in.
Yeah. So when ICE, when they first announced this, sat down with our police chief, sat down with other folks, other mayors, and I think the attitude was like, well, we've been working with ICE. They came in and had a conversation with all the mayors about 6 months before, a year before, and we've been working with ICE for 2 decades in the metro area. And so I don't know if I could have imagined the way that these guys would have operated in our community. In fact, I sat down with our police chief, and he was saying it's just a matter of time before someone gets shot. The way that these guys are acting, the way they're behaving, the way that they are not following enforcement protocols. And that was 2 weeks that was a week before Renee Good got shot. And so I think you could see from the get-go just how triggered these guys are and these men and women are in doing their job. And we saw it in our community. We've had a family that was, we're a town of 20,000. So for like all of these incidents to show up, we had a family of mom, dad, 2 kids were illegally taken out of their house. They had a legal asylum application to be here. And luckily, like I said, our folks in the community know when ICE vehicles are here. They saw them get taken out of their house. Their 2 kids went to school with the kids of a local lawyer. She traced the case down. They tracked the family down. They plastered the mom's face on DHS worst of the worst. And she had never committed a crime in her life when they did a records search. In fact, she had been robbed in Ecuador and was part of the asylum application coming here. So she was embarrassed publicly over something she had never done. And luckily, we got that family back. We've had people who just look like immigrants, which is totally illegal as well. Taking people off the street. I had a Somali woman that's been stopped multiple times. And let me tell you, they aren't nice when they do it. They're pulling guns immediately. It's high escalation. The way that they treat people. They broke into a young man's apartment. He's a U.S. citizen. They were knocking so hard on his door, he thought they were going to break it down. Came in, guns, 6 of them, guns drawn into his house. These are the kinds of things that our country was founded on, of illegal search and seizure, and these guys are doing it. And so he's staying with his parents right now. He's so terrified to stay at his apartment. We just had a business. I could just go on and on.
Yeah, how many? You go ahead.
Yeah, we had a business the other day. They parked, it's a bike shop, one of our favorite local bike shop. They got every kind of bike you can imagine. The owners are nice as can be. The workers are nice as can be. They parked outside of their place and we're using it as a staging to do a raid on another property. That's not legal. And one of the workers came out and said, hey, can you move your cars? And it started to cause a disruption. People started coming in. Can you move your cars? They came up to him and took his picture and put him on one of these secret databases that they have. Like that seems like an entirely un-American process that's going on there. Saying that he's now part of the database, and they were threatening him. And he's like, I work here and I'm just asking you to move, and so these guys are just, they're highly. You said,
and then you told me earlier though, on that story specifically, I believe you told me then the police department came over.
And then, so I called the police chief. And I was like, hey, can you run by there and just have these guys move along to their net? If they're staging on a property, they have the right to go on that property and do their work, but you can't be staging on our business properties and obstructing their business. So he went over there and they told him to F off.
The police officer.
What's that?
The police officer, the ICE agent, yes. The federal government has been at odds with and very aggressive with local and state law enforcement. Fair to say.
Yes. And let me tell you, that whole narrative that our cities aren't working. I mean, we're not operating different than any other city or many other cities in this country. Is that we aren't resourced. I have 3 cops that are on at any given time in Hopkins. We are not resourced to go out and do immigration enforcement the same way that we're not resourced to go out and do tax IRS enforcement. And so then people come in and say, oh, you're not enforcing the laws. It's like, well, no, we're enforcing the laws that we're resourced to enforce, but we've been working with agencies like this for a long time and doing it well. Like 10 years ago, there was a lot of folks that were, whole immigration process that these agencies ran through, and they weren't tackling people on the street to do it.
Right.
They weren't, trouncing on people's constitutional rights to do it.
Are you protecting undocumented people who have committed crimes from the federal government?
No. If you talk about something that we all agree on is like if someone gets to a certain level of crime and they're here illegally, Of course, I don't think anyone believes in open borders. I don't think anyone believes that you should have criminals here that are here illegally committing a certain level of crimes. I think where that you'll see the pushback is on due process. If you don't have due process in this country, then you have due process for no one. If people can say, oh, it's about, immigrants and if they come here illegally. Well, if you don't have due process, you can accuse anyone of being an immigrant and deport anyone. You have to have due process where people, that people are convicted, accused and convicted. That is another foundation of this country. And so I think there's pushback in that space, but it's not about protecting people who are committing crimes here.
It's a new argument, Rick. Of course not. It's a new argument that is being made exclusively on the right that undocumented people don't get due process. Scalia said they did. The Supreme Court has always said they did. Until very recently, it was not controversial that everybody gets due process. That's what America. It's one of the great things.
I had someone come up to me and they said, you don't. The Constitution only applies to citizens of the United States. I'm like, tell me you don't understand the Constitution without telling me you don't understand the Constitution. It applies to people. And that's why it applies to people, is because you have to have that due process to even determine
if someone is a citizen. Exactly. You have to give them the opportunity. Yeah, exactly. Talk to me a little bit more about how it's been. You used the phrase occupation. You said, I don't think people understand. And I know they don't because I keep having people from Minnesota text me, call me, email me like, Pete, you don't understand. So help us understand what it has been like for your town of 20,000, which is a suburb of Minneapolis.
Yeah, I'll say this, that if you don't want to pay attention to it, you cannot pay attention to it. You can go about your business. But when I go out and I talk to our business owners, I've got a citizen of the United States. He's Mexican background, United States citizen, owns his own. He's an entrepreneur, owns his own business, and he's getting driven to work by white people because he's so afraid of getting taken down by these folks. I've had a nurse going to work, had guns drawn in a back alley, just pulling out of her alley. They must have mistaken her for someone else, but he pulled guns on her. I mean, and I've been sent videos of people driving around and they're tapping their guns on the people's windows. I'm pretty sure that's not enforcement protocol. It's just case after case of, I think I mentioned that a young Somali woman pulled over multiple times by these folks. And it's just, people are in fear. There's people that are not leaving their houses. There are businesses that are not opening. They can't get workers to come because they're so afraid to go to work. And it's not because they're illegal. It's because this environment of fear of just going out of their house. And so, I don't think that you can, if you aren't here and if you're not talking to people that are truly impacted by this, I am wondering many times, what country is this that I'm living in? I never could have imagined I would live through a time like this.
None of us did. I really feel that people our age, at least. You also talked, of course, that you are organized with other mayors across your state, and I'm sure across the country as well. But one of the things that's interesting is when it does break down in kind of ideological lines, this idea, these practices, this policy that the federal government, the Department of Homeland Security has been employing in Minneapolis and Minnesota and other places. But generally speaking, conservative types don't like the federal government coming into their town and doing things. Now, some people might like it. Some conservatives might like it if they think they're taking murderers and rapists off the street. I understand why people believe that, but that's not what they're doing. And they're arresting and terrorizing all kinds of innocent people. So what are you hearing from your conservative colleagues who are also mayors in Minnesota and other conservative leaning mayors about the federal government's practices?
Yeah, 100% of what you just said is, I think folks that truly have conservative values, this doesn't match it. Having a government overreach in communities, shutting down business, our business community is being crippled in all of these small towns. So I talked to people in Prior Lake, the mayor of Prior Lake, hearing from the mayor of Wilmer. I just sat down with around 30 mayors on Monday, and let me tell you, no one's happy, and that's conservative mayors too. Because their communities are just being crippled. Our economy in Minnesota is being crippled by this.
Give me an example
we need the boot off our neck before we can move on.
How is it affecting your economy? I mean, I have some ideas and I've heard some things, but how specifically has your economy been affected by the occupation, by the presence of these federal goons?
Yeah, I mean, so I have, and again, that's just having conversations with people in the construction industry, like try to find roofers that are out there right now. We're trying to, I mean, we still build, as you can see, we still protest at -20. We still build construction at -20 here in Minnesota too. But to get roofers to go out to do some of that work, we've had 2 restaurants just in Hopkins. Like I said, we're a town of 20,000 people. You have businesses all over the place that are closing, having condensed hours. It feels even more intense than during COVID of the shutdowns that are going on with small businesses. And as soon as the government is willing to take some accountability and take some steps, I heard like the body cameras, taking the masks off, acting like law enforcement as it should be, and following constitutional rules. We're all for it to come back to the table, but that's just not where they're at right now. And it's like I said, in every community, it's been pretty crippling. And the people that are impacted on this, I don't know what the perception is outside of Minnesota, but I have heard things here and there of like, oh, it's instigators that are causing trouble and stuff like that. It's like people are mad because regular residents are being traumatized by this. And that's where people are going out and peacefully protesting. But it's really coming from this people trouncing all over our constitutional rights. And we see it.
You couldn't blame anyone for, after Renee Good murder, the way we saw it on tape, you couldn't blame people who were doing the work, who were going out and helping people, from being scared to continue to put themselves out there. Then after Alex Preddy, again, almost even worse in a way, not that you can compare them. How did your community respond to that? Because like I said, a community could be scared, more scared. And some people argue that's why they do it the way that they do it, to scare us. I don't know what's in their mind, how much they think about this as strategy. But my question to you is, how did your community respond? Did they respond with fear and start to withdraw, or did more people go out? Because I think what happened in Minneapolis would be what happened. Minneapolis is interesting and specific, and the history there and the demographics and so on. But still, I think there's cities and towns across America that would react similarly. But what happened as a result of those killings?
No, we went out and you saw people here protest. I think people realize, I mean, let me say this, after the shooting of Renee Good, I had a 17-year-old girl who was behind an ICE agent. She's videotaping. He comes up to her. He's 50 feet from her. He has no reason to walk up to her, walks up to her, grabs her phone from her, which they can't do, aren't supposed to do, grabs her phone from her, turns it off, and says it's something to the effect of, what are you, 18? You want a bullet in your head? Like
Jesus Christ.
B word that was just downtown or in Minneapolis. And there's another video of her running across the street, terrified, bawling, in response to that. And so it is intimidation. They were trying to use that as stories of intimidation of to leave them alone and let them do their work. And I don't think that Minnesotans and I don't think Americans should put up with that. And we didn't, and we won't. I was saying if another incident happened, there was 50,000 people protesting, you'd have 100,000. Like if they want to escalate this in that way in our city or anywhere else, I think that should be the reaction to it. I think this was a good wake up call that Americans still rule America
and care about each other. So what about the community and how it is organized? Today, your Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, was being grilled by senators in a hearing, and they blamed him for coordinating with the public to organize. They're also, I'm seeing people in my community, in my town, my Facebook, that my town MAGA Facebook, which I love to just post all the time on. A guy said the protests are all organized, and I said, yeah, that's what protest is. It's always organized somehow. Sometimes it's more organized than others. But regardless, that's what protest is. And then today, Keith Ellison was being grilled, and he was basically, did you work with the protesters? And he said, I encourage the people of my state to use the First Amendment. Like, that's what it is. It's not illegal to protest. Speech is not illegal, not yet. And so
Right.
How have you worked with the community? How have they worked with you? Because it's not like you're telling them how to react.
No.
They're telling you,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, without taking shots at that whole crowd, but folks that and liberal, independent, Republican, truly at our essence, we're public servants, and we're responding to what our residents are saying. And the organizing that's going on here is that if I want to find out what's going on in my community, I'm not going to the news. I'm not getting a top-down message of what's going on from senators or anything else. I'm talking to people in my community. They are telling me what's going on in my community, and I'm responding to that. They are telling me of which events that they're going out and they're organizing. And I know these people. They're not paid agitators. They're inviting me out, and they are driven by protecting our community and protecting our rights. And that's how America, to me, that's how it should work, is that we're responding to what people are seeing in the community. And that's how I'm serving them. And I think that's going all the way up in a lot of these cases. Of Keith Ellison himself is being driven by the people of Minnesota, not the other way around.
Law enforcement, local and state law enforcement, is really upset because they feel like they're being painted with the brush that ICE is using. They are at odds in many ways with the federal government. They also, local law enforcement likes to have jurisdiction and doesn't like to be told how is your local police department, Minneapolis Police Department, respond? Because it does seem to me from the outside that the police departments are working hand in hand with the mayors, with the policymakers of your town, of your state, that they're not really a big divide in terms of tactics, resources, et cetera. Talk to me.
Yeah, they're being put in a really tough situation right now. Is they often go out to these cases, where ICE is there to protect residents from that interaction with ICE, so that we don't have more shootings, that we don't have, people put in unsafe situations. They're really beside themselves because they take, to be a police officer out in the field in Minnesota, it takes 2 years of training. And they take that job serious, and they take their oath to protect and serve very serious. And I have so much respect for the work that all those officers have been doing around the state, and especially in our community. They've been accused of working with ICE and all this kind of stuff as well. And so they're really put in this really difficult in-between spot. And I'm just really proud of how our officers have behaved. You see them out there, and they do what officers should be doing in those situations, is not reacting. And if people are in need, they are responding to that. Even when they've had to arrest people in certain situations, they're doing it with class and dignity. And I just have the utmost respect for our officers.
What have you learned, and what do you think the community there in Hopkins have learned through this terrible, terrible time that you've all had to go through?
Yeah, I'm amazed at, I don't even think we saw the beginning of what we're capable of. And I don't think I realized that before, that if this had gone on, if the atrocities had continued to go on, we would have gotten stronger. And it really made me aware of, I'm so proud to be a Minnesotan. I'm actually so proud to be an American right now, with how people have responded to this, and really at the essence of what our country should be, and how people have responded to this. There are millions of guns in Minnesota alone. And this is a conscious choice by people to come to these places and be peaceful and respond peacefully, and to practice our First Amendment rights, to demonstrate that this is not, the way that they're being treated is not okay. And it really was an amazing wake-up call. And it was also amazing who did the battling. I learned that moms are the most badass warriors that there are out there.
Yeah.
They're out there observing these agents. They're out there giving food to people that need it. Make sure that people are getting to work, they're getting to school, and able to continue on their lives. And all these folks that are out there, they're claiming they're big, bad, tough guys, were nowhere. And it was just amazing to see the courage of people throughout this. It's been very sad. It's been very hard. And there's just immense pressure, I think, on everyone. But it's also been just so amazing to see the response of people and to see the courage of people. I'm just so proud.
Love that. I've always been kind of one of these Noam Chomsky, Howard Zinn, lefty criticizing America types. I've never really bought into patriotism, period, in general. It kind of almost bores me in a way. But most importantly, the argument that I've often made is like about our country is we don't care about each other enough. We really don't. Like, we have not made a shared, our generation has never made a shared sacrifice. And, so I just see in all the different places I've lived and been that a lot of times people don't care about each other. They say they do. But when it comes down to it, people look out for their own self-interest. And that includes COVID. I think we saw a lot of that with people not doing their part and so on. But I think that what you just said really does matter. I think people coming out and supporting each other, strangers supporting people who are more vulnerable than they are, and then thus putting themselves in danger. It's what Dr. King and the civil rights leaders of our parents said that we had to do, and it's what people there are doing. It's really inspiring what you have and the people of your town in Minneapolis have done. And for the rest of the country, it really does make me, I think, proud to see the humanity that I feel like we too often haven't seen, is how I would respond.
That feels amazing to hear. And I think it really has united us and brought us together. I sat down with a friend of mine. He's a Green Beret, former Green Beret, still does missions out for different things around the world. And he's on a different side of the aisle than I am. We sat down and he was outraged at what's going on. And he was just like, any way that I can help.
Interesting.
Anything you need from me, let me know. And it's just united people that had differences. But when you see what's going on, it's not right. And people are standing up, whatever side of the aisle you're on.
Love it. Well, listen, I'll check back in with you in a week or anytime you want to find out what has happened and if they actually are doing what they say they're doing, which is drawing down, because it's a big moment and it's an important moment, an inflection point for sure. In this very cold winter for Minneapolis and much of the rest of the country, you guys really did stand up and do what you do best in the cold, which a lot of other people couldn't. So thank you very much for talking to me.
Waste our time. Yeah. Thank you, Pete.
All right. And there you have it, Patrick Hanlon. Check him out online. Hanlon for Hopkins was his campaign site. You can learn more about him. You can follow him on Instagram. And you should go. We should all go and hang out there and support the people of Minneapolis and all the surrounding towns. Thanks again to Patrick. Thank you to you for joining me, for supporting me, for hanging out with me last night for almost 4 hours. We had a great, great time. And that's it. That's all I've got for you. You bumblebees here at the end are the greatest. Shout out to Michael Green, who's a bumblebee. I know a few of you have responded and I haven't given you shout outs. I apologize. I'm not very organized about it, but I do really appreciate all of you who listen to the show every day or listen to the show all the way to the end. And that is all I've got. So John Carroll, johncarroll.org. Go support him taking us out right now, as he always does. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creep kidneys, you got to stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up. Stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up. Stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. See the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up. Stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up. They had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.